Slingbox, the pioneer that streaming left behind. In 2004, two brothers from Foster City, California had a problem that millions of cord cutters would later recognize as their own. Blake and Jason Krikorian were traveling frequently for business, stuck in hotel rooms with terrible cable packages while their favorite shows aired back home on their premium subscriptions. Their solution seemed simple enough: build a device that could beam their home TV signal anywhere in the world over the internet. What they created was the Slingbox, a hockey puck-sized device that would fundamentally change how people thought about television consumption. For nearly 2 decades, Sling Media rode the cutting edge of what they called place-shifting technology, letting users watch their living room TV from anywhere with an internet connection. The Slingbox became the holy grail for cord cutters, business travelers, and anyone who refused to be tied to their couch for must-see television. But in November 2020, Sling Media announced they were discontinuing the Slingbox product line entirely, ending support for all existing devices by 2022. The company that invented the concept of watching TV anywhere had been killed by the very streaming revolution it helped create. The Krikorian brothers weren't typical tech entrepreneurs when they founded Sling Media in 2004. Blake had spent years in the semiconductor industry, while Jason brought marketing expertise from various Silicon Valley startups. Their eureka moment came during yet another frustrating business trip when Blake realized he was paying for premium cable channels at home that he couldn't access from his hotel room. The technical challenge was significant. How do you compress a full-resolution TV signal enough to stream over the relatively slow internet connections of 2004 while maintaining acceptable quality and minimal lag for channel changing? Their first prototype looked like something from a garage inventor's fever dream. A jury-rigged collection of video encoders, network adapters, and custom software that could barely stream watchable video at 320x240 resolution. But it worked, and more importantly, it worked remotely. The brothers knew they had stumbled onto something that could revolutionize television consumption, even if the rest of the world wasn't ready to understand it yet. The original Slingbox launched in July 2005 with a price tag of $400, positioning it as a premium gadget for early adopters and tech enthusiasts. The setup process was notoriously complex, requiring users to connect the device between their cable box and TV, configure port forwarding on their router, and install proprietary software on every device they wanted to use for viewing. Despite these hurdles, the Slingbox found its audience immediately. Business travelers became evangelical about the device, sharing stories of watching their home DVR recordings from hotel rooms across the world. Sports fans discovered they could follow their local teams even after moving to different cities where games were blacked out. The device created an entirely new category of television viewing that Sling Media trademarked as place shifting, distinguishing it from the time-shifting capabilities of DVRs by emphasizing location independence rather than temporal flexibility. Early reviews praised the concept while criticizing the execution, with many noting that the video quality was barely acceptable and the software felt like a beta product. But for users who desperately wanted to access their home TV remotely, these compromises were worth making. Sling Media's rapid growth caught the attention of major players in the television industry, though not always in ways the company appreciated. By 2007, major league sports organizations and television networks were threatening legal action, arguing that the Slingbox violated licensing agreements by extending content beyond the intended geographic boundaries. The company found itself in the unusual position of having to prove that their device was legal, spending millions on legal fees to defend the principle that consumers should be able to watch content they were already paying for. The landmark court case Sling Media versus Major League Baseball established crucial precedent, with judges ruling that place shifting was a fair use of copyrighted content, similar to the time-shifting protections that had been established for VCRs in the 1980s. This legal victory legitimized the entire category and opened the door for broader adoption. Meanwhile, Sling Media continued iterating on their hardware, releasing the Slingbox Pro in 2006 with improved video quality and the Slingbox Solo in 2008 at a more accessible $200 price point. Each generation brought better video compression, easier setup processes, and support for more devices and platforms. The company's big break came in 2007 when EchoStar, the parent company of Dish Network, acquired Sling Media for $380 million. The acquisition made perfect strategic sense for both companies. Dish gained cutting-edge technology that differentiated them from competing satellite and cable providers, while Sling Media gained the resources and industry relationships needed to scale their operation. Under EchoStar's ownership, Sling Media accelerated their product development, launching the Slingbox Pro HD in 2008 with full high-definition streaming capabilities, and the Slingbox 350 in 2012 with built-in Wi-Fi and mobile optimization. The integration with Dish's satellite service created compelling bundles that attracted customers away from traditional cable providers. More importantly, the acquisition provided Sling Media with the content industry relationships needed to expand beyond simple place shifting into original streaming services. This foundation would eventually become the basis for Dish's later streaming ventures, including Sling TV, which launched in 2015 as one of the first major over-the-top television services in the United States. At its peak around 2010, Sling Media commanded the place-shifting market with an estimated 80% market share and millions of active users worldwide. The company had successfully expanded beyond their original hardware-centric model, offering software solutions for consumer electronics manufacturers and licensing their streaming technology to other companies. Major electronics retailers like Best Buy featured Slingbox displays prominently in their home theater sections, and the device had become a standard recommendation for anyone setting up a sophisticated home entertainment system. The user community around Slingbox was remarkably passionate, with dedicated forums sharing setup tips, troubleshooting advice, and creative use cases that the company's engineers had never considered. International users were particularly enthusiastic, using Slingboxes to access American television content while living abroad or to stay connected with programming from their home countries. The device had evolved from a niche gadget for business travelers into an essential tool for anyone who wanted complete control over their television viewing experience. However, even at the height of their success, the seeds of Slingbox's eventual obsolescence were already being planted. Netflix had begun their transition from DVD by mail to streaming in 2007, though their catalog was still limited and video quality was poor. Hulu launched in 2008, offering recent episodes of popular TV shows with minimal delays after broadcast. YouTube was rapidly improving their video quality and expanding into longer-form content. These early streaming services were initially dismissed by many industry observers as inferior alternatives to traditional television, but they shared one crucial advantage over the Slingbox. They didn't require users to maintain and configure their own hardware. The complexity that had initially attracted tech-savvy early adopters was becoming a liability as mainstream consumers gravitated towards simpler solutions. More ominously for Sling Media, content providers were beginning to recognize the value of direct-to-consumer streaming services, setting the stage for the fragmentation that would eventually make place shifting less attractive than simply subscribing to multiple streaming platforms. The beginning of the end came around 2015, when major television networks and content providers accelerated their shift toward proprietary streaming applications. HBO launched HBO Now as a standalone service, allowing users to access premium content without a cable subscription for the first time. CBS All Access, NBC's Peacock, and eventually Disney+, Apple TV+, and dozens of other services followed suit. Each new streaming service reduced the value proposition of owning a Slingbox, since users could now access much of their desired content directly from official apps, rather than streaming it from their home cable box. The cord-cutting movement that Sling Media had helped pioneer was ironically undermining their business model, as consumers abandoned traditional cable subscriptions in favor of streaming-only setups. Meanwhile, the technical advantages that had made Slingbox unique were being commoditized by cloud-based solutions that offered better reliability and easier setup than any consumer hardware device could match. Sling Media's attempts to adapt to the changing landscape revealed how fundamentally the market had shifted away from their core competencies. The Slingbox M1, launched in 2014, represented their most user-friendly hardware yet, with automatic configuration and improved mobile apps that eliminated many of the setup headaches that had plagued earlier generations. But even with these improvements, the device struggled to find its audience in an increasingly crowded streaming landscape. The company's parent company, now called Dish Network after a corporate reorganization, was simultaneously investing heavily in their own Sling TV streaming service, which competed directly with the cable subscriptions that made Slingbox devices valuable. This internal conflict of interest meant that Sling Media couldn't fully commit to either defending their hardware business or transitioning to a software-only model. By 2018, new Slingbox sales had declined to a fraction of their peak levels, and the company had stopped meaningful investment in product development. The writing was on the wall, even if loyal users weren't ready to accept it yet. The final chapter came swiftly and decisively. In November 2020, Sling Media announced that they were discontinuing all Slingbox products and would end server support for existing devices in November 2022. The announcement cited the rapidly changing industry and noted that many of the features that made Slingbox unique were now available through other services. For users who had built their entertainment setups around Slingbox devices, some of which had been running continuously for over a decade, the news was devastating. The devoted community that had sustained the product through its later years rallied to develop alternative solutions, including third-party servers and open-source replacements for the proprietary software. But these efforts couldn't change the fundamental reality that the market had moved beyond place shifting toward native streaming. The company that had pioneered the concept of watching TV anywhere had been made obsolete by the very streaming revolution it had helped create. Today, the features that made the Slingbox revolutionary in 2005 seem quaint compared to what users expect from modern streaming services. Instant access to vast libraries of content, multiple simultaneous streams, offline downloads, and seamless synchronization across devices. Sling Media's legacy lives on in the streaming services that dominate today's entertainment landscape, but the Slingbox itself has joined the ranks of innovative technologies that solved important problems until better solutions made them unnecessary.